Thou craggy knob. It is day 10 of the Regeneration Advent Calendar. Today, we're talking about the twin dilemma. Was it a dilemma? Once again, I'm joined with Luke.
Villain! Murderer! Yes, it is
Yuck.
this time of the season, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah.
We'd known it was coming for a while. I'm sure many of you were looking forward to it. I know for sure we've been dreading it a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, but here we are. We finally sat down and watched it, and we will be sharing our thoughts on it for your
We
viewing
will.
pleasure.
We certainly will be sharing some thoughts.
Uh, but first, we should probably share some trivia, shouldn't we?
Yes, we
Because
shall.
this is an unusual regeneration story in that for the past few, we've been having season finales, haven't we? This has like been the big end all to the year before Doctor Who takes a break. Whereas here, John Nathan Turner decided to do something a little bit different, harkening back to Power of the Daleks when Patrick Troughton first came along, and decided to put it, well, Power was towards the start of the season, and this falls at the end of the season, doesn't it? This is technically a finale, although does not feel like that whatsoever.
No.
Uh, Only in the 80s sense that the money's run out by this point.
There's a weird example of them spending money in this story when they didn't really need to.
What's that?
The two extra gastropods.
Oh yeah, because they're like hardly in it, are they? Well, we can criticize that at some point later.
Yeah,
But,
it's just
yeah,
why spend the money and use it for one shot? Why?
yeah. It's only occurred to me that they actually never show up again.
Yeah, why?
Why? Indeed.
That's the story in a nutshell. Everyone, why?
Mm. But yeah, so it comes off the back of Caves Vandrazani, which you'll know from yesterday, we absolutely adored, and as do many people, rightly so. And so this is sort of like the first time since season 4 as well that the TARDIS team has changed completely by the end of the season, isn't it?
Yes.
Because first story, it's Fifth Doctor, Tegan, and Turlo. Last story, it is Sixth Doctor and Perry.
Well, Tegan
And
is mentioned in it, so does that count? I don't know.
perhaps. But then again, it carries on into Attack of the Cybermen, doesn't it? Because you have like Jamie, Susan, and a few others mentioned as well. Terrible Zodin.
Oh yeah, can't forget her.
Yeah, so it's the beginning of a trend of the Sixth Doctor there, isn't it? But yeah, I think the idea behind putting it at the end of the season was to like ease viewers in with it rather than having that cliffhanger and then them not finding out for ages what this new Doctor was going to be like. But it seems to have been a bit detrimental to the Sixth Doctor series as a whole because it doesn't get off to the best start at all,
Well,
really, does it?
by the time this goes out, our current showrunner Russell T Davis
Yeah.
cited this is the beginning of the end of classic Doctor Who.
You do get that sense from it.
You really do. And I'm sure we'll dive more into that when we get into our review of it.
Indeed. Anyway, what other trivia have you got for us?
Another Doctor was considered for a part within this. Well, two
Oh,
actually.
Yeah, indeed.
Peter Capaldi was considered for Hugo,
Mm.
and Peter Cushing was considered for Asmail.
Yeah, I think there was quite a few high-profile names floating around for Asmail, wasn't there?
Yeah, because he was meant to be like the Hermit character, what was referenced in like the Time Monster, but the writer implied that he was a tutor in the Prydonian Academy.
Yeah, which I think probably works out a bit better.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I think I prefer the mystery of the Hermit. I mean, the Hermit's meant to be the one from Planet of the Spiders anyway, isn't he?
Choji.
Choji, yeah. Or Campo Rinpoche.
Whatever takes your fancy with those.
I mean, it looks like Choji, but it's actually Campo Rinpoche, I think.
There we go.
Uh, makes everything so much clearer.
There we go.
But yeah, I think wasn't Jim Broadbent also
Yes, yeah.
considered for? I'm not sure whether it's Asmail or a different part, but yeah,
For
certainly that was
Drac.
floated around. Yeah.
I think you've got Captain Hart from the Sea Devils within this story as well.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I think he plays one of the Dracondans. I don't know.
No. Yeah, that's probably why it's not as obvious if it's under all that makeup. But yeah, so working titles were A Stitch in Time and A Switch in Time. None of those really inspire much more creativity than the Twin Dilemma, I suppose.
No, I think Twin Dilemma's a nice little play.
Yeah. It's also the only four-part story of the Sixth Doctor's era, or at least traditional four-part story. If you count Trial as one long 14-parter, since that is how it's presented on screen, although it certainly is three 4-parters and a 2-parter in terms of execution.
And then we have Anthony Stevens, the writer of this story. Yeah, he had some pretty fanciful excuses on why he couldn't write this story, like his typewriter exploded.
Yeah.
I don't
I
blame
think
it.
is this his only one?
Oh, yeah, I believe it is. And I can see why it is only one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I'm just thinking of the meme where the piano's on fire on the beach.
yeah.
And it's usually used for when a composer creates a really good piece of music, is like the way it's used. But I'm just thinking of that, only it's a typewriter and it's for the opposite reason.
I can't blame that typewriter.
That's what's come to mind.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, it just, from the scenes, the things behind the scenes, no one was happy with this. Peter Moffat, the director, wasn't very pleased with how the script turned out. I think Colin Baker's cited this as his least favourite story. I doubt Nicola Bryant has fond memories of it due to certain incidents involving the teeth of Colin Baker and Kevin McNally.
Bloody Jericho.
Which resulted in Kevin McNally getting a punch to the face. And Baker then took Nicola out to dinner to apologise and to eat something that they're actually meant to be eating.
Okay, yeah, okay.
It's enough detail there.
There we go.
Yeah, it's certainly got about an interesting story behind the scenes.
I think that's
more
probably
interesting behind the scenes than
it's more exciting
on screen.
So we try and dissect the Twin Dilemma and what actually happened.
Yeah, I mean, not much from memory.
We'll try and condense it as best as we can because, like we say, not much happened. So
there's a lot of faffing around and padding in the TARDIS, isn't there?
Season 22.
Mm-hmm. It is very much prototype season 22. It feels like you can, even though it is still the 4-part format, you still can see this very much working in the same way that a season 22 story works, or rather doesn't work. But yeah, take it away with part 1.
So, part 1, we get a title sequence. What's been jazzed up to represent our new colourful Doctor. And we have these two twins, Romulus and Remus, who are dressed like orange and lime Tic Tacs. And they get abducted by a creepy old man who's a professor, but he's actually a Time Lord, Asmail.
He's even offering them candy, isn't he? He put like the Haribo rings on their wrists.
Well, there we go. There we go. While that's happening, we have the Doctor and Perry interacting, and we have the classic sort of wardrobe sequence, and we get some nice little references to previous costumes like John's jacket and cape and Troughton's trousers hanging up in the fur coat.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that this story doesn't pick up immediately where the Regeneration leaves off. Like, not just in terms of it opening up with the twins, but also in the TARDIS scene. Like, it seems like a little bit of time has passed at least. Like, Colin Baker's up on his feet now, for one thing. It does feel a bit odd in that sense. And I think, is that the first time this has happened?
I think probably so, yeah, because normally, the last, Castroval was pretty much straight on from Legopolis, wasn't it?
I mean, the only other example really would be spearheads, but that's a totally different ball game altogether anyway.
Yeah.
And also, you don't have any companions there to have that with, so continuity doesn't really matter there. And I suppose the way the War Games leaves it is just Troughton fading to black, so there's not you can't really pick that up where it's left off anyway.
So yeah, plenty of costume changes. Perry changes outfit. Colin gets upset, so they have a bit of a yuck off.
Yeah.
And the twins' dad goes, "Oi, my kids are missing." Phones police, and
Police sends out
a
bloody
force
space armada to get them back.
because these twins are very important.
I think it's weird how domestic it feels at the start, but then you never actually go back to that. Like, there's a whole chat about Mom's never around, is she? You get the sense that they're a bit neglected there. But then that never really matters again in the story. Like, you don't even see them return to their dad. It's just...
there's a whole Big Finish series of those twins.
What
else happens in part one? The Doctor wants to become a hermit and go to an asteroid.
Yeah. I mean, you've forgotten the infamous choking scene.
Oh, that happens. That's a thing.
I think that's the impetus for him wanting to become a hermit, isn't he? Because he's like, oh, I'm too dangerous. I could destroy the whole universe. So, Perry, you and me are going to become hermits and suffer together.
And then we have sort of a police sort of chase with like the freighter with like Asmail and the Dracondians on when the twins, but they teleport off and the whole space fleet gets wiped out.
Yeah, I think it gets wiped out off screen near enough, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, because I don't remember happening. I mean, I'll be honest, I was on my phone. So I'm surprised I'm remembering this much.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of like short model shots of ships landing and taking off, but that's about it when it comes to that, really.
And then what else happens? They arrive on the asteroid Titan 3, is it? I want to say. And Kevin McNally's there, isn't he, chilling?
Yeah, he's knocked out. Would later become Jericho in Doctor Who Flux more recently. But here we have a younger version of him being rescued by the Sixth Doctor and Perry.
Perry doesn't want to go out. The Doctor's like, "Nah, let's go out," which causes like quite an interesting sort of moral argument between the two.
Yeah, it's like if we hadn't come out, we wouldn't have found him here and such. So you would have left him to die. But it just feels like forcing arguments for argument's sake, really.
It's really trying to push the Doctor's an alien.
Yeah.
With the dialogue, like, you humans, you Earthlings. It's like,
it's like, why should I care? Why should I have compassion?
Yeah. And so, good old Lieutenant Lang joins the TARDIS, points a gun at Colin, and that's the end of episode 1.
And I mean, I'm sure most of the audience were probably sitting there thinking, we can't blame him, shoot away. Let's get a new Doctor, please. Let's skip to Sylvester already. Yeah,
but you can really see the cracks are starting to show with the show within this. And Twin Dilemma is just a distillation of everything bad.
Yeah, I think you said it sums up 80s Who rather well, didn't you?
It's everything wrong with 80s Doctor Who in a story. And I'll explain that later.
Yeah, it feels like the Legend of the Sea Devils of the 80s, really.
Yes.
In that it's the perfect distillation of what's gone wrong here. But yeah, anyway, part 2. So we've had that exciting cliffhanger of the Doctor being held at gunpoint. It's resolved by, I think, Hugo, isn't it, the character's name? I keep just wanting to call him Kevin McNally.
Yeah. People
Is it Hugo Lang?
Hugo Lang, yeah.
Yeah, Lieutenant Hugo Lang. He ends up fainting, so they got out that one well enough. And the Doctor's like, no, I don't want to help him. He's just pointed a gun at me. Why would I want to save his life? So Perry convinces him to save his life anyway, just out of kindness.
I just think it's so lazy how they saved him.
Yeah, they just like run a little light over his head and then that's
This
it, damage repair. I mean, I think some other stuff goes on off screen, but
what's it? It's called a healing beam.
Hmm.
Like that's one of the most generic things. It's sort of like the ultimate evil. Like there's a peace ray. It's like it just feels like generic sci-fi.
Hmm.
There's not much depth to it. It's not like it's a iomorphic trigon beam, but will heal his wound. Like at least put a bit of effort in it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with this story entirely. It just feels like no one really wants to put any effort into it.
Yeah,
And I mean, for most of it, I can't really blame it. Like, people will say it's so good that it's bad in the sense that, it could almost be a parody of Doctor Who, couldn't it? But the thing
yes.
is, none of the actors are sending it up. Most of them seem very bored.
I feel like Colin's Doctor feels very parable in this,
Yeah.
especially like the first two episodes. I think episode three is when you get the Sixth Doctor you sort of know and love. First episode feels very sort of shaky ground, and I think that's where like most spoofs of the time come from, that sort of area of Colin's Doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, they very much really wanted to go into the idea of post-regeneration trauma here, didn't they?
Yeah.
But they didn't quite know how to explore it well enough, so you just have random outbursts from time to time, but then that's it, really. And there's no real reason to them other than to just be a bit annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, Colin's doing his best with the material he's given there.
I think you've got a
I
new
think-
appreciation for it if you've seen the Matthew Sweet conversation.
I think so. There's some good lines that sneak through every once in a while as well. Like Perry has quite a nice one where she says, "What's a little radiation among friends?" I think there are certainly moments where you could see the good of the 80s within this story as well. But they are few and far between for the most part. Like, I mean, Kevin McNally as well as Hugo Lang, he's quite a likable character. There's not much to him, but I think Kevin McNally's performance at least brings something.
I don't know.
Or is that me just projecting because it's Kevin McNally?
I think that probably
we
is
like
because
Jericho.
I think Jericho's a way better character.
Oh, definitely.
And I'll be honest, I wouldn't want Lang trying to save me because I think he's a bit of a bad cop. He's rubbish. Like his ending, he's just like, no, I shall stay here.
It's like the most generic Who ending you can think of, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like character stays behind to help planet, even though they have no qualifications to do so whatsoever. I think it's also like the world building of the planet Jaconda isn't that great anyway, so you don't know exactly what's meant to be going on the planet.
Like he must have some sort of skull injury to go, hey, I'm going to wear one of the most garish things out there to try and balance Colin's coat. I don't know.
And isn't that what so also before they leave the TARDIS, Perry convinces the Doctor to heal him because she's going to hide his power pack so that he can't use his gun. And I think she hides it in that colourful coat, doesn't she? That's why he ends up putting it on.
Yeah, but just take the power pack out and go, I'm not wearing that.
Yeah,
it's just
true.
Oil.
I mean, it's the future. Styles change.
Blind.
Maybe he's colorblind. Maybe he thinks it's a 60s story.
I don't know. Oh, no, who knows? Who knows?
But yeah, so we've been stuck in the TARDIS for longer than the Doctor and Perry having the actual story now. So they end up going out and exploring a bit. They have a bit of a panic about it. Like first, Perry's going, "Oh, we should go back," and then or is it the other way around? One of them's going, "We should go back," and then they end up switching their positions so that one wants to go back and the other wants to carry on. They end up getting captured and brought to Asmael, who's got the twins working on some mysterious equations, that they're forced to write without the assistance of computer, aren't they, at first, because he can't trust them after a little stunt they pulled on the spaceship over where they sent out the distress beacon.
Yeah.
So with the Doctor and Perry turning up, Asmel decides it's best to take the twins over to Jaconda. The Doctor recognises Asmel, who at this point is going by Professor Edgware, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he's using like an alias for no real reason, because I don't think anyone around there really knows him. But yeah, he's also got these blocker things on the twins' memories, which I'm not sure what the purpose of that is in the story.
Is that to stop like Mestor reading their mind? Or gaining
Maybe,
access? I don't know.
But surely he'd still read their mind currently. You just wouldn't know where they're from and such.
I don't know.
Yeah, so anyway, after that, he decides to go off to Jaconda and leave the Doctor and Perry trapped in his little bunker place. But unbeknownst to him, one of the Jacondans there, who's like, I think he's quite herp. He's like second in command to Mestor, isn't he?
Yeah.
Really? He's decided to arm the self-destruct mechanism without Asmel knowing. So they all leave on their ship to go to Jaconda. Doctor and Perry are trapped, and while the Doctor is trying to work out the combinations, Perry notices the bomb. And so the Doctor and Perry realise they have much less time than they thought they did. But luckily there's a little, not quite teleport, isn't it? The Doctor has to rejig his, like, this machine for Asmel to relax in.
Yeah.
It like
revitalization, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's a scene earlier on where he just stands in it and then it's like replaced by this white figure, isn't it?
It's like what you'd see in like a biology lesson.
Yeah. But the Doctor's able to use time technology with that to send them back along their own personal timelines, so they end up back in the TARDIS. But the Doctor's also got to program a delay of 10 seconds, so for some reason needs a watch to know what 10 seconds is. But then conveniently the watch breaks just as after Perry gives it to him. And so
that's why she broke his watch in Revelation of Adalys.
Yeah, it's revenge. That all makes sense. But yeah, so that goes a bit wrong. And Perry makes it back to TARDIS fine. Kevin McNally is up and about at this point. He sees her arrive, points the gun at her, but she just shrugs him off and pushes him aside, checks the scanner, sees the bunker blow up, and then starts to have a little cry about it because the Doctor's dead. End of part 2.
End of part 2. Part 3. Doctor's back in the TARDIS. They all go off to Jaconda, isn't it? This is very much for Jaconda episode, isn't it? Where we all start to learn about that. Asmel arrives with the twins.
You okay?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello?
I can't hear you.
Is it not working?
Oh no, it's my internet connection is unstable. Oh, sorry, I've just...
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to give it a couple of seconds and then pick up where you left off before I interrupted you just then?
Yeah, sure. Part 3 is very much for Jaconda episode, where we go to Jaconda, the Doctor's back in the TARDIS, off they go to Jaconda, Asmel arrives with the twins, and we get Mestor in his full power, dealing with somebody who stole some vegetables because they're starving. And
yeah, gives them an embolism, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's
like the ability to create a bubble in their system.
That's cool.
Quite a nasty way to go, really.
Yeah, because it's like, I'd rather be shot than be embolized or whatever.
Mestor's a very generic baddie.
Yeah.
I think, like, much of this story, it just feels very bland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have a bit of a back and forth from the TARDIS about, do we arrive in the palace? They arrive in the palace. We get a little story about the sort of the myth around the gastropods and the Jacondans, which is cool. We see 2 Jacondans and Kevin McNally Lang gets stuck in the slime.
It's like no, it's the gastropods, not Jacondans.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah, the
gastropods.
two extra gastropod props that they didn't need to make.
They didn't need to make, but they're there, to fill out. Um,
Wait a minute.
uh,
So if Mestor is the one planning all this, what are the other gastropods doing?
just lurking around, really. I don't
Like,
know.
because the idea is that these pods are quite dangerous, and the gastropods cannot be allowed to spread. But surely, if one of them's dangerous elsewhere, then those two still here on Draconda are dangerous.
Well, yeah. What happened to those two? Do they die because the leader's gone? Mestor's
Yeah, is
gone?
it similar to the Tractators, where like it's just the one bad one leading them, and then who knows? Anyway, yeah, less thought about the better.
Yeah.
Out of
uh,
sight, out of mind.
yeah. There we go. So we get the doctor's like, well, stuff you. I'm off. He's off to see Asmael and the twins. I don't think he examines the gastropod eggs in this one, does he? I think that's part four.
Yeah, that's part 4. He gets into there.
And that's pretty much where that ends. And then Lang and Parry go off. Lang gets whacked over the head, and Parry gets taken to Mestor and's about to die. And that's the end of episode 3, I think.
Lang wakes up and goes off to tell the doctor
Yeah.
about Perry getting captured, and then the doctor worrying about Perry is the end of episode 3, pretty much.
There we go.
Yeah. Mestor, so part 4, Mestor's decided to keep Perry around because she is pleasing to him. She's a bit easy on the eye, I suppose. Which
That's
is,
original.
again, like the most generic... Yeah, it's the generic bad guy. And nothing's even done with it beyond that. Like, at least some other stories, when they have that, they sort of do the whole Jabba the Hutt Princess Leia routine, don't they?
Yes.
But yeah, here it's just nothing, really. And I mean, to be fair to her, Perry's been through enough with that with Shara's check. Like, just leave her alone at this point. So, yeah. Meanwhile, it seems that Asmael isn't necessarily all that evil. He just wants to help the people of Draconda. And he believes that working with Mestor is the only way to do that. But the Doctor works out that with these calculations, moving the other planets that are further out from Draconda's sun to the same orbit as Draconda won't actually make them have the same atmosphere as Draconda, like Mestor seems to be theorizing. It will instead, because they have much less mass, send them hurtling towards the sun. And if they have Mestor's very strong gastropod eggs on them, then those eggs will be sent flying all the way across the universe, and more gastropods will pop up on other planets and spread terror and destruction wherever they land. It's a bit like the Seeds of Doom with the Crinoid, but much less exciting.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so the twins figure out the calculation, but the Doctor basically asks them to wipe all their workings out and just keep the equations in their head. So that means, they have to be left alive. They've got something to bargain with there. But Mestor, using his telepathic powers, he's been watching through one of Dracondan's eyes, so he knows what's going on here. He knows what they're up to. The Doctor and Asmael go to confront Mestor about this, while Perry, Lang, and the twins try to get to the TARDIS to safety. Mestor sent some Dracondans into the TARDIS to have a little look at it, but well, actually, no, we don't deal with them just yet, because first we have a bit of a shootout between Lang and some of the other Dracondans, which he ends up winning. And then he goes into the TARDIS and tells the Dracondans in there to shove out, really. So, meanwhile, in the throne room, we have the exciting, I put in quotation marks, showdown. The Doctor throws some acid at Mestor, but he's got a shield up, so he's fine. He says he's going to plonk his mind into the Doctor's, and the Doctor's like, no, you can't do that. He's like, yes, I can. Look, I'm going to put it into Asmael's mind. Here you go, here's my demonstration. But while doing this, he's left weakened, and Asmael keeps him occupied and tells the doctor to throw the yellow acid at Mestor to kill the body. And then Asmael dies, sacrificing himself because Mestor's mind was too great for him. But with Mestor's body gone, there's nowhere left for him to go. And that's it, really. The tyranny's over. Lang stays behind to help the people on the planet. The twins are like, "Can we stay?" Perry's like, "No," into the TARDIS, and they just go into the TARDIS. They don't even try to argue or anything. And the Doctor says, you know, he's a bit rude to Lang and everyone on his way out. That's actually quite a funny line at the end there when like I say, it has moments, doesn't it? Where
Yes.
it's good. The line where Lang says, "I've got no one on Earth to go back to," and he's like, "I could believe that," and then he walks off. It's a very Capaldi line, I think.
Yes.
You can see where the rudeness of the 12th Doctor maybe comes from.
And we'll see
Uh,
how that's handled in Deep Breath when we get to it. See what how it's done better.
yeah. I mean, I hope better.
Yeah.
But anyway, it ends on the infamous line, "I am the Doctor, whether you like it or not." And there's like some weird, slightly ominous music. Then Perry starts smiling anyway, and it's like meant to show that everything's, it's meant to be a reassuring smile to the audience. Like, everything's all right, the Doctor's here. But it doesn't feel that reassuring, to be honest. It just feels a bit weird to me. So yeah, that is the end of the Twin Dilemma. We made it.
There we go. Time for our review.
So in 2009, not long before this came out on DVD, actually, DWM had a poll for the all 200 stories at the time, because it was just after Planet of the Dead came out. And Caves of Androzani, as we mentioned yesterday, came out right on top. The story immediately following, funnily enough, came out right at the bottom. So they're like bookends of the two, aren't they?
Yes.
So do you think Twin Dilemma deserves its spot at the very bottom of the list? Or do you think there are worse stories out there?
I don't think it deserves to be at the bottom. I think there are worse offenders there. I just think with this story, it's just a bit flat and lifeless compared to Caves.
Hmm. Yeah, it's mostly inoffensive. It doesn't help that it comes after Caves, and I think it also doesn't help that it is the beginning for a new Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I think, post Regeneration stories sort of are a bit more important to get right in that sense. And this just feels like no one's really trying to get it right at this point.
Like Colin's really going for it, but it just because his energy's way up and everyone else's energy's kind of low, it kind of comes across very sort of theatrical and big and brash, which I guess that's the Sixth Doctor, but it doesn't quite work, I feel here.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's understandable, really, that no one's that infused because it's not that amazing a script. It's very bland, very basic. You got a few good lines every once in a while, but on the whole, it's just very generic, really, isn't it? But not even. Sometimes you can get generic stories which are enhanced by production values and cast performances, but not really so much here. And I think maybe it's part of the problem is you've got a new Doctor, and saving him for the end of the series means that there's no leeway there when it comes to script issues. Like, this has to go into production at a certain time. Whereas, say, with Castrovalva, that had the opportunity to be pushed back to, well, not even pushed back, like the entire original post-regeneration story was scrapped and a new one was written. And then that was done fourth in the production schedule. Here, there's no way to push it back further in the production schedule. It has to be made with the budget that's available and with only so much time for rewrites there. And so I think that's something else that probably is to the detriment of this being at the end of the season.
I definitely think it's a damaging one because I don't think people would tune back into Attack of the Cybermen after finishing this, going, "Well, we kind of know what you're getting." I think that this story really shows how tired the show has sort of become because it sort of feels very run of the mill. And I said earlier that this story feels like everything wrong with 80s Doctor Who in a story. You've got the sort of fanciful the sci-fi costumes of like everything being glittery and shiny and silver. You've got the sort of try-hard makeup of these bird, the Dracondans really.
Yeah, it feels very much like a costume, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much better a lot of the production values felt during the 70s. Like, compare Draconians to Dracondans, and it's amazing that Draconians came along 10 years earlier,
Hmm.
or 11 even.
Yeah, in that case. And then you have like the gastropods. Like it's not even hiding the element that poor old Mestel can't see to get up the step, leaving Asmael's lab.
And he's not even meant to be walking up the step. He's meant to be like going along and leaving a trail that will turn into
Yeah,
concrete.
there's no trail after he's gone.
Do you think there's a good story in here, or
No.
would yeah no?
It's very paper thin if there is anything there.
Hmm.
Because I feel like it uses all like again like the maths of Adric and stuff, and that just doesn't interest me.
Yeah. What did you make of the twins themselves? Because you know, I often hear like quite a few words thrown around about them being bad actors. I mean, they're not great. I'm not going to say that there's a hidden masterpiece there waiting to happen with the twins, but I don't think they're all that bad actors either. Especially with the material they're given, I don't know if they could have done a whole lot better.
I mean, I find myself sort of switching off when they appear
Uh,
because I just don't. I'm not really interested in them, and there's nothing really relatable to attach to them.
they like try giving them something, don't they? Like we said earlier about the family domestic situation at the start, which does feel very different for 82 anyway.
To be fair, I can
To
see why the
even
mother
have
left. If the
to
mother
even
left,
have that
yeah.
to begin with, but then it just goes nowhere. We don't even hear the mother or father mentioned again by episode 2.
I mean, they get some nice bits in sync. I was like, oh wait, they timed that well.
Hmm.
But there's just something quite cold about them as characters. Like you don't care if they make it alive. You kind of hoping they get shot just to
You have
spice
that
it.
weird scene where Perry first sees him and she's like, Doctor, look. And you sort of get the idea that in the script he envisioned like about 6-year-old child geniuses or something, like where they could be a very sweet, but they're more moody preteens at this point, aren't they?
Well, I think they were envisioned to be like these quite beautiful looking boys, and I think that's probably Gary Downey um, sort of way of putting it in a way.
Uh,
But yeah, it's strange.
I mean, I think someone suggested that maybe they should be female instead, but GNT was like, no, it has to be male for them to work. So who knows what's going on there. Although there was an interesting switch. Apparently, the Chamberlain was originally going to be female, and then Kevin McNally's superior officer was going to be male, but they switched those two round. And I think that does work out better.
Yeah, that's a good switch.
I mean, Kevin McNally's superior officer does seem bored half to death, but nevertheless, I think
You can't blame her.
no, that's the thing, really. It's like you can't really criticize the performances here because what they're given to work with, it's not really all that infusing anyway.
It's just
Like you
very
said,
surface level.
yeah, it could almost be a parody if someone was hamming it up, but no one's hamming it up at all. And
I feel like Colin just feels very parody in it though. Those first two
Hmm.
episodes, it's like, well, my young companion, we shall do this. We shall go there. Like it just feels very sort of what you'd get in like a French and Saunders thing back in the 80s.
Hmm.
Or like the
they're
Lenny
like
Henry.
yeah, they're trying to give him and Nicola a bit of a comedy routine, aren't they? It's just not funny.
But because there's that sort of frosty nature between the two, you don't get it.
Hmm.
Because when I think Colin meets, I think when they meet like Asmail, or he puts his arm around Nicola, and like that's meant to be like a really nice sweet moment, but like Nicola's like, get off me.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't
But to
come
be
across.
fair, he did try to choke her not that
Mm.
long ago, so I can see why Perry
But where's
would
Perry's
be a bit.
compassion? Where is her compassion?
Well, I think she's only got so much of it for someone who's just tried to joke her.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a
But
difference between having compassion and actively liking someone.
I mean, I'm not having the Davo slander. He was meek. Oh, no, Davo
Yeah.
was good.
Bringing back all is forgiven.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
And I mean, yeah, it feels like we're shitting on Colin a lot here. We will get to praising him tomorrow. We're going to be covering the last adventure there. So we've got his whole journey on TV to come and his whole Big Finish journey following that. So things are going to get better for Colin, but just here as we look at Twin Dilemma, he's not off to the best start.
No,
Uh,
really not.
yeah, it's just everything seems to be working against this story. But I feel like there are worse ones out there at the end of the day. I wouldn't rank it right at the bottom.
It'd be near the bottom, but I don't think it would
Hmm.
be the bottom story.
It's mostly inoffensive, isn't it?
I think that's the
To
worst
the
because,
point.
like, you'd rather it be bad to, like, all right, it is terrible, or something really good. It's when it's sort of middling where you're like, I don't know where it should go.
Hmm. It feels like it doesn't know where it should go in itself as a story anyway. Like it feels often quite directionless. There's not much purpose to many scenes, really. So,
I mean, the story has much life as a gastropod egg.
hmm. That's probably the best way to sum it up, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I suppose any closing thoughts before we give it a rating?
Well done, us. We watched it. We did
Yeah, we
it.
made it here. We've got here at last. Yes, this is the first story we're recording following the announcement of The Power of the Doctor as the title for the centenary. We've been referring to it as the Untitled Centenary Special up until now, but we know its name at last. We've not watched it yet. We're still about a month out from that. We don't have a release date yet either. But yeah, for those wondering how this is going as a little time capsule of our year as we record throughout. When was it June we started?
Yeah, I think it was June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're now nearing the end of September as we conclude this 10th recording session for the Regeneration Advent calendar. But yeah, rating for the Twin Dilemma. What number are you slapping on this?
This is the thing. I don't know.
I feel like 4 for me.
I'll agree with
Yes.
that because I feel like it's not average. Yeah, I guess four. Yeah, four.
Uh,
Yeah, four's good.
yeah, 4 will do.
Four will do.
There we go. That's all we can have be bothered to say at this point. Twin Dilemma's done. Pat ourselves on the back. We made it. Thank you, dear viewer, for watching us suffer.
Yes.
We
Um,
tried.
Join us next time as we spice up this regeneration series as we touch on some big finish, like you said earlier. We're taking a look at the last adventure and the Sixth Doctor's life in general. So that'll be fun. Hopefully, we can say some positive things about the Sixth Doctor.
Yeah, we could
But
be a bit more positive.
yeah, because we know where his journey's going and has finished. And yeah, of course,
Yeah.
we're going to talk about Big Finish because it's us. It'd be rude
I
not
think
to.
as Colin, well, as the Doctor, Sixth Doctor, gets a bit more warmer, we get a bit more warmer to him, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
The craggy, knobby edges have eroded away by that point.
Excelsior.
There we go. I think that is a good place to leave it for today.
So yeah, we shall see you in day 11 for the last adventure. Well done, Luke. You watched it.
Well done, Ben. You rewatched it.
Thank you. Anyway, thank you, dear watcher, viewer, for watching, listening to us. And like we said, we'll see you for day 11 for the last adventure. Goodbye.
Take care, everyone.